Was that WrestleMania or was that Adzelmania? Because it felt like match and then 5 minutes of advertisement, 6 minute match, 5 minutes of advertisement. What the hell was that?
Okay. Can I ask you a quick question? What was the difference between the advertisements on ESPN when they were 5 minutes and the advertisements on Peacock when they were 5 minutes?
I have no idea.
Exactly my point. You noticed it because it's the WrestleMania name and the matches were shorter. And so there were more ads. And yes, I thought night one was one of the worst WrestleManias put on in recent history. I think it may be a bottom five WrestleMania in terms of one night in the history of the promotion. On the opposite, I thought night two was a top 10, top 15 night in the history of WrestleMania.
The only match I did not get to watch on night two was Sami Zayn versus Trick Williams because I was coming back after game two of Raptors Cavs, but I did get to watch every other match on night two. Which, do I think Brock Lesnar actually retired? No. I think Gunther is going to goad him out of retirement. They will do that match at SummerSlam. That's where Brock actually retires.
I agree, but I do think two things. Number one, I think it's a way that you instantly babyface Brock if he theoretically retires. Because if he's not retired, you already heard what the fans said, right? Thank you, Brock. Thank you, Brock. That's an instant babyface Brock Lesnar then when he comes back. The other thing is, if he is retired and you don't want to run that Brock Lesnar Gunther match, or Brock truly, does not want to come back for SummerSlam in his home state, if that's the way you're going to go out, that is the perfect way to go out. 0 notes, 10 out of 10. That Obafemi Brock Lesnar match was exactly the way I wanted it to go. It was absolutely perfect. Oba gets the big entrance, beats on his chest. Brock delivers an F5. He doesn't even go for a cover. Oba pops right up, choke slam. The biggest fall from grace you ever see. 1, 2, 3. Tip your cap, chef's kiss.
Yeah, I really liked that match, even though I don't like Brock Lesnar. I don't think he should be on TV due to all the stuff outside the ring, but we're not going to get into that because I don't want to. Even though it is part of the sport, I get it, but still, I don't want to address it. But anyway. So, unfortunately, like I said, I missed the Sami Zayn Trick Williams match. But my favorite match of night two, and I will admit, I really liked Roman Reigns versus CM Punk. I liked that the Usos did not get involved. I fully expected them to. But actually, my favorite match, even though it got turned into a street fight for some odd reason, was the Demon versus Dominic Mysterio.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the ladder match.
The ladder match was really good. Don't get me wrong, but there was just something about the Demon Finn Balor versus Dominic Mysterio that I just really liked.
I'm curious why though, because I thought that was actually one of the and I thought it was a good match, but I thought in terms of extremeness, like I thought Fatu and McIntyre's unsanctioned match was a lot more extreme on Saturday night compared to this one.
See, I did not really like Jacob Fatu versus Drew McIntyre. It felt very slow. It felt very clunky. It felt very rough. It felt like it was kind of dragging trying to get to the next spot. And I
guess my point is they used the toolbox, they used multiple tables, they used a wrench. All we really got in the Dom Finn match was a table slide and a couple of kendo stick shots.
Yeah, I know. And maybe they could have done a little bit more, but I liked the simplicity of it. Even though it was a street fight, they didn't go crazy with with outside weapons and stuff.
And I also like that JD McDonough did not interfere. And that's the other thing I noticed. Night one was a lot of interference. And obviously the main event, which we'll get to, but night two, outside of the little bit of interference you had with the women's championship match with Jade and Rhea, which was expected, almost every match ended clean.
Yeah. I mean, with the ladder match, I wasn't really expecting interference anyway.
Well, here's what I think. I think night one was all about the spectacle, right? The celebrities, the ads, the not a lot of in-ring action. This is the entertainment side of WrestleMania. And I thought night two was two parts. One of the parts was we're going to get these young guys, Obafemi, Javon Evans, Penta, and Trick Williams. We're going to get these four guys completely over. And then we're going to give you a match that match time alone might have equaled the total match times that went down for night one in Roman Reigns and CM Punk. And I'll tell you one thing I did like about this WrestleMania, that outside of Reigns and Punk, there wasn't a lot of guy hits a finisher, guy kicks out. Just because it's WrestleMania, he's got to kick out of a finisher. I thought even though the matches were shorter, they did protect a lot of the finishers. They did protect a lot of these young guys, and that's how you get the moves over.
From what I heard, the reason they did a short match with Stephanie Vaquer and Liv Morgan is because both of them are banged up. But the weird part is Liv Morgan had a match last night on Monday Night Raw against Sol Ruca, and it went almost 15 minutes.
By the way, the Monday Night Raw roster got some big insurance last night with the additions of Joe Hendry, Sol Ruca, Ethan Page, Obafemi now officially becoming a part of that roster. It looks like Jacob Fatu is now officially a part of the Monday Night Raw roster. Where is that going to leave SmackDown? Because they almost have nobody left.
My biggest problem with Backlash being 4 weeks after WrestleMania is with Jacob Fatu and Roman Reigns, for example, even if they build up this match really well, I'm not going to have any doubt that they're going to change the title because Roman just won it. Or, if Liv defends her title at Backlash, they literally just gave her the title.
Can I counter that with when Roman Reigns won the first time and his first feud was with Jey Uso? We didn't really have a doubt that Roman was going to lose the championship to Jey Uso, but it was about the story of Jey Uso being included into the bloodline. This story with Jacob Fatu is not about the World Heavyweight Championship. It's about Jacob's place in the bloodline. And I love the fact that Jacob even said, Tribal Chief, I'm not going after the Tribal Chief. You are the Tribal Chief. I want more shoes. I want more clothes. I want more money for my family. I want more food. And I think that is what is going to lead us to the story where maybe you do bring Jacob Fatu into Roman's bloodline. Because remember, Jacob was in Solo's bloodline. He wasn't in Roman's bloodline. And there is bloodline connection there, obviously, with Roman and Fatu.
No, I totally understand what you're saying, but it's like having another premium live event this soon after WrestleMania, no. Again, I guess with Cody, there's more doubt to it, especially if they end up running the rematch with Randy. But
I would like to see Randy take the title at Backlash and then give it to Cody. I don't see a hating reason why you couldn't do a switch back and forth, especially with the way night one ended.
Which,
by the way, what I find so funny about that, Pat McAfee pretty much basically confirmed on his show that TKO inserted him for that storyline. It wasn't a WWE creative decision. That TKO did that just to sell tickets, which shows you how out of pocket they are, because WWE booked that match like, F you, TKO. We are completely running Pat McAfee out of this storyline.
And there's been reports that, like, TKO basically is in control.
Which is wild to me. And that it's so wild to me, because none of those guys on that board have any experience whatsoever known about wrestling. It reminds me of Ted Turner at the end of the WCW days.
Like, it basically makes me believe Triple H is their scapegoat.
Which, I mean, here's the thing. Does that make Dana White their scapegoat? Or does Dana White truly book UFC? And why is it the same for UFC or different for WWE? Are they listening to, I don't know, one VKM, if you get those initials?
Totally, I understand those initials. But, like, you know, for example, you look at what happened on Dynamite. MJF had just successfully defended his title against Kenny Omega at Dynasty. And then what happens? He's told, oh, yeah, you have to defend the title tonight against Darby. And he ends up losing.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think Tony Khan did that to create buzz during WrestleMania week?
For sure.
Because there's a lot of people out there saying that AEW has had more momentum than they've had in the past 3 years, and it's because of MJF, and then they immediately dropped the title from MJF. And why do you do that?
I think he's going to win it right back at Double or Nothing, because it is in New York, his hometown.
Here's my point. If you do that, then the same people that like that better not complain if they do the bait and switch with Randy and Cody, because it's the same exact thing.
No, I know. I understand that. But in terms of night one, I will say there were a couple matches that I was like, okay, I actually liked that. Number one, right off the bat, would be Gunther versus Seth Rollins. I thought it was absolutely fantastic.
And I was actually okay with the way they did the Braun Breaker spot. I know I said before.
I was not.
See, and that's interesting, because I know I said before that was my concern. Was like, this didn't need Braun Breaker. This didn't need Paul Heyman. But the way they told the story with Gunther weighed out and him not necessarily knowing if Braun Breaker was there or not, Gunther doesn't care. Gunther just wants to win. He'll take advantage of any spear spot he can and just choke out Seth Rollins and take the victory for it.
See, with this match, I was like, no, do the Braun Breaker stuff after the match. Like, I don't want this to be about Braun Breaker costing Seth Rollins the match. I understood why they did it.
Let's be honest, they mostly did it to get the viral moment of him running 90 yards down the ramp.
Even though he completely missed and nearly...
Well, I wouldn't say he completely missed. It looked like he kind of got exhausted at the end and almost did like a half tackle.
Yeah, it almost looked like he was going to pull a Titus O'Neil from a few years ago.
But no, listen, like, I mean, night one and night two, I don't know if this was by design. I thought this going into it. I thought night two was better night on paper, and I thought night one was okay. That looked like it was two different companies booking the show.
It really did. Like, you had all the interference with Liv Morgan and Stephanie Vaquer, and that they didn't even get 10 minutes. And I was like, you've done a good job for the most part, you know, making this a legit feud on Monday Night Raw, and then they only get 7 minutes? What?
I am of the belief if Randy Cody did not have the McAfee storyline, he did not get involved at all, and you just have the regular Randy Cody match that we now think we're going to get at Backlash, I think night one would have looked at differently, because I think everybody looked at a show based off the main event. That's how we mostly judge shows. If the main event is garbage, it's going to bring the whole show down. If the main event is good, it's going to raise the whole show up. Fair or not, that is mostly how we judge a show.
Yeah. I understand that.
By the way, I understood what they were trying to do, because when McAfee got taken out, I thought, oh, McAfee's going to come back. Okay. But I think what made that match so bad was, I don't know if Randy Orton was hurt or if he was just overselling, but it felt clunky because it felt like Orton wasn't moving.
Yeah. And from what I read, he was supposed to win that match, but then they decided to switch it in the last few days prior to Mania.
I think is, if they were going to continue with McAfee, Orton was going to win. And I think once they decided we don't want to do with Pat anymore, that's when they probably made the switch back to Cody.
It's very confusing. I have a take on all of WWE following WrestleMania. The only thing I'm interested in come Monday Night Raw is everything with Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker. That's the only thing that truly interests me, like on the Monday Night Raw side.
You're not interested. You're not interested in Obafemi at all. You're not interested in Roman Reigns at all.
As of right now, no. Like, I get what you're saying about the bloodline stuff with Jacob Fatu, but again, it's that same issue I was just telling you about. Like, Roman just won the title. There's no jeopardy to it. I'm not like disregarding what you're saying, but it's like them doing Backlash so quickly after WrestleMania. I want a little bit of jeopardy.
I just got to say one word: cinema. Everything Roman Reigns touches is cinema.
Again, I agree with you on that. I like Roman Reigns. I do.
I am so excited that he is back full time. I cannot wait. I think Obafemi is going to win King of the Ring. That's my pick right now. And I think they're going to do Oba and Roman for one of the nights of SummerSlam. And like to your point, I think Gunther and Brock would be the main event of SummerSlam. But think about this. If at SummerSlam, you have Roman, Oba, maybe Cody, Randy, or maybe Cody, CM Punk. You could have Gunther, Brock Lesnar. Maybe they do Rhea Ripley and Io Sky with Rhea, who's never defeated Io Sky. That's 4 main event matches, and 2 of those matches are not going to main event the show.
Yeah, I get it. And maybe you do something with Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker.
Yeah, I thought maybe a steel cage or something, blow out that feud. Like, I think for the second straight year, the SummerSlam card on paper is going to look better than the WrestleMania card.
Yeah. I'm genuinely more interested in what happens with SummerSlam than I am with what was happening with WrestleMania. From what I read, and I think Paul Heyman confirmed this, the original plans were CM Punk versus Braun Breaker, and it was going to be Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns.
So this is what I was wondering. Was Seth and Roman going to be for the world title, and then Punk was going to be with Breaker for the WWE title? Were they going to take the title off Cody with Punk?
My guess is it was going to be Punk Breaker for the World Heavyweight Championship, and then Seth Roman for the WWE.
So what would have happened then? Punk would have had to take the title off of Rollins, and Rollins would have had to take the title off of Cody.
Yes.
Think about that alternative world.
Yeah, which I would have liked that better because I love the rivalry between Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns. I've told you how much I love that rivalry.
Well, remember what we pitched? Remember that Raw, to your point of Roman doesn't have a lot of stakes in winning the title. Remember we thought legitimately Braun Breaker could have beat Punk for the world title on that first Raw this year?
Oh, that Stranger Things episode. Yeah.
Yes, they had Breaker versus Punk, and there was a lot of thoughts of Breaker can win the title, or Punk could retain. Maybe they do a disqualification. Maybe Seth Rollins wins the Rumble. Like, these were the conversations we were having going into WrestleMania.
Yeah. And I think the injuries really derailed whatever WWE was going to do. But I'm not even saying this as just an AEW fan. But after that show, I'm like, Double or Nothing's going to destroy WrestleMania. Because, like, we already have, AEW already announced their first match for Double or Nothing. And it's Konosuke Takeshita against Kazuchika Okada. We have been waiting for that match and that feud for so long. And it's finally happening.
I feel the need to once again point out when Josh talks about AEW, and the fans have noticed this, he always uses the royal we.
Okay. I was saying that as more just general wrestling fans, not specifically AEW.
Well,
in this
yeah.
case.
Well, two Japanese guys that I have never heard of. Though I gotta say this. Speaking of a guy I never heard of, can we talk about real quick about maybe the most overact right now in WWE, known as Danhausen?
That was freaking hilarious.
By the way, my favorite moment of the night, and I'm gonna say it because it's notable that Michael Cole said it on commentary. These little people come out to the ring, and Michael Cole does call them midgets and says, "Before you cancel me on the internet, you clowns, they asked me to call them midgets." I thought that was the best line of the entire WrestleMania.
I agree with you. But excuse me. My only issue with that was like I only remember what the match was before Roman Punk. Remind me.
It was Rhea and Jade, and then they did that segment, which I was actually a little bit surprised that they did not have Cena interact with anybody on night one outside of Bianca Belair, which now Bianca Belair and Naomi's future children, I assume, are going to be feuding 20 years down the line.
Yeah, that's why it kind of surprised me that Montez Ford was on the show last night.
The Street Profits are back. And by the way, Angelo Dawkins looks ripped.
Yes.
Maybe that's out. Did we get the World Tag Team Championships now, an actual feud, the Vision against the Street Profits?
Probably. By the way, I did not like that opening match at all. It was just spot fest. But
I thought it worked because it got ISO Speed over. They did again. I thought night one was all about moments. The influencers, the celebrities, the entertainment. It was not about wrestling. Night two was about wrestling. And that's why I think this WrestleMania may go down to the hardest one to rank, especially when you look at the two-night WrestleManias. Because I do think in totality, I would argue it was better than last year in totality. However, and I said this last year, Josh, I don't know if you remember me saying this. I think from about WrestleMania 35-ish and even 36, I thought was good, even given the circumstances with COVID. Through 40, we were blessed with great WrestleMania, great WrestleMania, great WrestleMania. That when 41 was bad and 42 was not great overall, you could say, WrestleMania is like the Super Bowl. Like this year's Super Bowl. I said it for weeks. I was not invested in Patriots Seahawks. I did not care. I wanted to get the Super Bowl over with. Some years you're going to have that. And sometimes there's stretches where you have that. We've had stretches in the NBA Finals where before Game 7 last year in the Thunder and Pacers, the NBA Finals were a foregone conclusion for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. Prior to last year, the last time we got a Game 7 in the NBA Finals was us and the Warriors.